Hi, friends. Welcome back. I'm Kevin Duragi. Welcome to the Kevin Duragi Show. I'm a real estate investor, agent, and coach. Over the years, I've realized as I was flipping all these houses and doing all this work on different properties that I was actually working on myself. I've had good days. I've had bad days. I've been in this industry, 10, 15, 20 plus years in different ways. And I want to just give you some of that wisdom, give you some of that experience that I've had as you're breaking into this industry, right? So you don't need to make the same mistakes that I did. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the 7 steps of living a life fulfilled. If you remember, this is episode 2. So in the first episode, we talked about quicksand, right? Quicksand is all those things that bring you down, right? Grasping for money, grasping for a title, trying to get affection from a relationship you have, right? Those struggles that we all have. And if you remember, I had my own struggles, and I got out of my struggles because of my coach, Coach Chuck. His wisdom, his guidance was kind of what helped me pull out of the sand, right? It was his shoulders that I was able to stand on, that I was able to kind of get to another level of success. So staying on the shoulders of others, helping other people out, recognizing that we all have quicksand, this is normal, especially when you break out on your own and you're starting a new business, especially like real estate. If you don't take the time and at least recognize where you are, you're going to come into a great more deal of struggles. If you think about the airplanes, when they talk about this, when the cabin pressure changes, the air mass comes down. You're supposed to put your mask on first before you help even your kid. Because if you're empty, if you're not okay, you don't show up for these other people. In kindergarten, my kids talked about filling of buckets, right? They talk about adding good words make other people's buckets fill up. And if you say bad things, it actually removes from their bucket. So what we're doing in this case is making sure our buckets are full so that we could go help other people. Right? Out of abundance, right? Even of emotions and feelings and whatnot, we're able to show up and help other people, right? Fill their buckets. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to unpack. Are you guys ready? All right. All right. I'm going to start talking about the 7 steps of a life fulfilled here. But before we get into this, quick housekeeping. I want you to go back to the first episode and give us a 5-star review. Okay, step 1. And 2, then I want you to share it with some people that are also starting a business or going through a transitional phase, because this gives you an accountability partner, somebody you can kind of talk about this stuff with. All right, so go do that and then come right back and we'll get going. As we journey into unpacking these 7 steps of a life fulfilled, the first step in all this journey, it's like the basic premise to everything. And I could wrap it up with one quote by Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Henry Ford, the maker of the Model T, said that. So the first step here is mindset. And I think that quote just sums up so much of what the mindset world looks like. Today I dropped my son off at school, and he was talking about soccer. He loves soccer. And he was like, "Oh, Dad, it's field day today, and we're going to be kicking the ball. I'm not going to be able to hit it in the hole. I'm not going to be able to do these things. It's hard." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what a great time to talk about mindset and visualization, right? Being able to see the thing before you do it." And I was like, "Colin," that's his name. Colin, like, why don't you start saying to yourself, I'm going to do a great job at soccer today. I'm going to hit those shots. I'm going to do these things. And then you start seeing yourself doing that activity. Instead of thinking you can't, guess what? You're right. You're going to get to that moment and you'll probably shank the ball. Why don't you start seeing yourself make the shot? Why don't you start saying to yourself, man, I could do this. I'm a good soccer player. I could kick the ball straight. I could kick the ball where I want to kick it. Start doing that positive mindset, that positive talk. And then guess what? Your actions, your feelings, your emotions, all that stuff will translate into where you want it to go. Your body knows what to do. You just need to sometimes guide it a little bit where you want it. But aren't you like that sometimes? It's a Monday and you're like, oh, it's Monday. and it just gets heavy and you don't want to go there. Oh, today's going to suck. Well, guess what? The day's going to suck, isn't it? Right? You're already putting that negative shade over that day. So yeah, of course it's going to be a little bit harder. Have you ever had those days like, man, today's going to be a great day. It's a Friday. The sun is out. Let's go. Well, why don't we do that with our other stuff, right? So mindset is like the foundation that all this stuff sits on. I think it's phrased this way, but your feelings create your thoughts create your words create your actions, and your actions create your success. So think about that for a second. Your feelings, right, your emotions, kind of how you start bubbling up there, kind of create your thoughts, right? So the way that your thinking creates your words, right? Your words are either audible or it's your positive self-talk or just self-talk. But those words actually create your actions, meaning you're doing something. And then your actions create your life, right? Create your success. So why not have good feelings, good thoughts, good words, which create good actions and a good life? I think a lot of times we don't do that. Have you ever been around negative people where just being around them, you start gossiping, you start not having good thoughts and go down the wrong path? If you remember last time, we talked about that bucket of crabs, right? Here you are spending the time on yourself, right? Getting into real estate or whatever business venture you're doing, and you're trying to crawl out of that bucket, and this quicksand or the other crabs are pulling you back down, right? Because their negative words, their negative thoughts, they don't want you being a positive and a doer to get away, right? They start pulling you down, right? The quicksand, the negative stuff starts coming in. You need to make sure you're surrounding yourself with a better group of friends, better people, right? Get out of the crab bucket. So a lot of books in today's world talk about mindset, and it's that important. We do need to spend enough time on what we're feeding ourselves, right? What shows are you watching? What news channels are you watching? Are they giving you a negative slang? Like, are they trying to direct your path into negative feelings? Or are people trying to build you up? Telling you information, right? News is good, but it's just how it's phrased. We need to watch what we consume, right? Not just food-wise, but also information. What shows are we watching? Who are we hanging out? What books are we reading? Do we feel better after doing these things? Is it creating our emotions, our feelings to be in a positive way, right? Translating into our thoughts being positive, into our words being positive, which create our actions in our life? Or are we feeding ourselves with a bunch of negativity, right? Which turns out we start saying bad things, right? We start tearing people down, putting holes in people's buckets instead of filling them up. You see how this process works, right? We start saying good things, think good things, and guess what? More good things in our environment start happening. We want to be the good change that's around there. We could do that, right? Through leadership, through servant leadership. And it all starts with taking personal responsibility. So if you're not an avid reader, like an avid learner, you're not, haven't cracked a book since high school, I made a list of the top 10 books I think you should start with, right? To basically be the foundation of some of the principles, like where some of this stuff has shaped from, right? Shoulders I've listened to and kind of guided me through it. So if you're interested in any of those tools, just go over to kevinduragi.com/tools, and you could start finding some of the things that we're talking about here. In my coaching, one of my early students is a friend of mine, Dan, and he went through this phase that he wasn't sure about some of the stuff I was talking about. At the time, I had a morning show, and he was always on, he was always watching and commenting, but he just didn't think he had it, right? He didn't. So his barrier of entry was some of the money, right? He had money, but he was reluctant to kind of buy into some of the programs and some of the stuff that we were talking about. But then he started changing his mindset. So, right, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. The Henry Ford quote, he started thinking, yes, I can get this and this will happen. Visualizing, right? Positive visualization there. And then sure enough, literally the money fell in his lap. He bought in, and then actually within a year, he had 2 properties. So like he changed his mindset, started being happier, and he started seeing that he could do it. And things fell in line, and he's doing fantastic. So it's just kind of cool to see how the mindset properties here, like there really is, it is a fruitful place. It is a fertile soil to spend some time on your mindset here. All right, so we just finished destination, right? That's the step 1. Step 2 is snapshot. Snapshot is recognizing where you are right now. We have some tools there. If you guys want to take your own snapshot, kevinduragi.com/tools and take your snapshot. I highly recommend it, okay? And I'll tell you why. So when we go on a journey, we need to know where we're starting. This is just simple questions, kind of going over the main relationships of our life, right? So we have 3 main relationships. We have relationship with ourselves, relationship with others, and relationship with things, right? So yourself, others, and then things, right? Just all these things. These questions will start talking about these different areas, right? And we could kind of find out like a litmus test, right? You could see if this one is good, if this one's bad, what hurts, what's good, right? You could kind of find out where you're at to see if you're living balanced. The idea of a perfectly balanced life, it doesn't really happen, right? We're going to go through ebbs and flows and pushes and sprints, but it's the idea of if I'm really lacking on something, we have to be able to focus on that, right? We need to be able to clean that up so it can become better. If we don't spend the time on some areas that are low, right? Think of a low tire. Well, what happens? Well, it eventually pops, right? It could be a mental breakdown. It could be becoming vastly obese. It could be losing relationship with your loved ones, right? Either love or kids or your parents. It could be you could go into severe debt, right? Creating a lot of anxiety there. You can have all your friends and your loved ones kind of just grow up around you and you're still acting like your 5-year-old self. But the idea of spending time in these different areas to make sure that you're living a complete life, a fulfilled life, right? This is really, really important. You need to know where you're at because it's a before and after photo, right? Right now, we're just taking the before photo. So we know how to compare it, right? Just like those exercise people. Well, I started here, and after so long, look at me now. I use snapshot here, like the old Polaroid pictures. So you could take those little snapshots in life and look at it, right? This is the summer of '82, right? This is what I did in 2011. It's that moment in time, and you could see how you're doing with your different relationships and different selves. So if you haven't yet, highly recommend you go to kevinduragi.com/tools and spend a little time on the snapshot exercise and recognize where you are now. So what you focus on grows. And these snapshots, right, in my coaching, we take these snapshots when we start and also at different times within the process and at the end of it. So even inside a 1, 2, 3 month phase, you could see how much you've grown in these different areas because you're focusing on that area. Sometimes things fall off, right? It doesn't quite fit. Sometimes things get so good, right? And you don't remember all the blessings or all the positive things that happen unless you look back at some of the old photos and realize how far you've come. We don't always give ourselves enough credit for how far we've come in a short period of time, right? It's those healthy habits. It's those series of making good decisions that really do create a better life for not only yourself, but all the people watching you. So now we're going to break into step 3. Just to recap where we've come so far, first off, step 1 is mindset, right? That's the map, right? That's all the stuff that we're able to think we can or think we can't. Step 2, we got to recognize where we are. That's our snapshot, right? You are here, the Rand McNally little dot. Step 3 here is destination. Now we got to know where are we going. We talked about it in the first episode about vision. This is the vision. Simon Sinek did the book, Start With Why, but it's where are we going? What is the destination? Are we trying to become a millionaire? Are we trying to live fulfilled? Are we trying to be a better parent? Are we trying to become a real estate investor? What's your roadmap, right? So what is the destination? My coaching, we do a couple exercises, and we do small groups, right? I call them tribes. But in these, we do these two exercises. One is a perfect day, and the other is the eulogy. But let me just unpack the eulogy. And I'll say it this way. My dad's passed away. He had pancreatic cancer. And at his funeral, so I'm youngest of 5, and at the funeral, some of my siblings gave a couple words of love and admiration. It was fine. And we'll say out of the 5, I'm the most outgoing. I don't think that's a stretch there. But during that time, I mean, I spent a long time writing a eulogy, and I was able to give it. And when I was giving it and afterwards, I felt fantastic because I was able to give my love, my praise, how much I admire my dad in that eulogy. And I was able to share that love through a gift that I had. I didn't know I could speak at that time, but it was one of those, I was able to thank him for all the stuff that he did for me throughout my life in the couple of minutes that I was able to get up there and speak, right? I was able to change the room with some of those words, just loving and praising on them. Have you ever been to a eulogy? Have you ever been to a funeral and nobody wants to go up and talk? Yeah, it's awkward, isn't it? Have you ever been to a funeral where like no one shows up? Awkward, right? Or going to a funeral or a wake or one of these situations and just, it's not a good place. Nobody's happy. Have you been to some of those funerals where the door is backed out there? There's food and pictures and videos up and everybody's happy and smiling and telling stories. I mean, who do you think there was living a good and fulfilled life? You know, have you been to those where the people get up? There's like people lining up to give their stories right in front of everybody because they wanted to share and highlight those person. This is the questions that we're asking, right? Is if something does happen to you, and we know it will, but are people going to show up at your funeral? Are people going to want to get up and get out of themselves, right, and give you your love story, right? The stories of why they're here, right? Why they're praising you and thanking you so much. You know, man, this guy did this in my life, or oh, here's a fantastic story, right? Or are you going to be just a little side note? You know, somebody will blow in a Kleenex a little bit and move on their day and not really think twice about it. You know, is your funeral going to be a checkbox activity for somebody else, right? Is it just today to-do list, right? Checkbox, stop by. Or is it going to be one of those moments where these people are like, man, I was there. That was awesome. I want to honor that person's life by living better today. So I ask you, as you go into this, what do you want your eulogy to be, right? Who's showing up to your funeral? Are dignitaries coming? Is anybody coming? Do your kids even want to come, right? Any of your friends showing up? What about your coworkers? You know, the people you spend most of your life with. Will your boss show up? Right? Will the government, unemployment show up? Cash your check? Yeah, that's bad. But I bring it up and I'm trying to lighten it up, but I want you also to get it, right? This stuff sucks sometimes to think about. But when you're there on those good ones, where you're like, man, that guy lived a good life. Thank you so much. And you're able to share that with their family, their loved ones, how important their friend was, their parent, their, spouse. When you're able to show them how impactful they were in your life, it makes you feel good. It makes them feel good, right? Let them know that they had a hero in the family. that they did something good for you. So have you been to a eulogy before that like nobody shows up? Have you been to a eulogy before that nobody wants to talk? It's awkward, it's quiet because no one's there. Have you been to a eulogy where it's freaking lively, right? There's the pictures and music and people are laughing and lining up and telling stories. I mean, we know the good ones and the bad ones, right? So I'm going to ask you to think about this. And in a sense, I kind of want you in your mind's eye here to go to your own funeral. What does that look like? Did people show up? Right? Did people take off of work to go? Are people lined out of the door in the parking lot, right? Parking on the streets, right? Just to give honor and praise to you? When it's time to tell stories, are people going up there, grabbing the mic, being like, I have to tell you this. This person impacted my life so much, right? Are they laughing and telling stories and clinking drinks, right? Going out to dinner afterwards and, cheers, clink, clink. Or are you just a footnote? Like, all right, that was a to-do. All right, next. What else am I doing today? Right? Spend that time. Your spouse or your kids, your nephews, aunts, uncle, like who's coming up and talking? Are people going to honor you and praise you? How much you've made a difference in their lives? Or is it going to be just the priest, just giving a kind of generic ashes to ashes and dust to dust? You're going to leave a little bit more behind. Somber to think about this stuff, guys, but once you really recognize what your destination is from moments like this, it becomes a lot more powerful. You will make sure that when people say, man, he was always in a good mood. He was the life of the party, right? Well, guess what? Now you're going to make sure you're always the life of the party, right? You got to make sure you have the jokes or at least hug and love people, right? People remember that stuff. And you could start it by remembering how you want it to finish. Stephen Covey talked about begin with the end in mind. Let's apply that to our life. We want to be this person that people remember that had an impact, that left a legacy. These are the exercises, right? When you do the work. My students have had some profound changes, right, when they apply this stuff to their lives. And we'll unpack that again in some of the next episodes here. But think about it, that vision. Who do you want to be when you grow up? Let's start doing that now. We don't need to wait until you grow up farther. Let's start now. What do you want? What's your destination? Let's start working on that. Nate. So as you get into your real estate world, right, what is your vision? What is your destination? Is it to do your first deal? Is it to go out there and become a millionaire? Is it to become financially free, pay off your debt, leave houses to your kids, right? Why? Why real estate? What are you going to leave behind? We are on a journey, right? Our life journey, our real estate journey. Real estate is a tool. It's a tool. It's a great tool, right? It has a lot of benefits. It could help you achieve a lot of things. But as you start unpacking, why do you want these things, right? Why are you getting into real estate? Realize it's just a tool, right? Do you want to get a bunch of houses to say you have a bunch of houses? Or is it the cash flow to help you do different things or to give money away? Is it the equity that you could pass on to charities, right? Or to your family, to your kids? What in real estate is going to help you become that person? Why do you want to become rich? Why do you want to become financially secure? Is it to do something greater or is it just to be selfish, right? There's more to this. Real estate is just a tool, powerful tool, to help you live a better life. Make sure you're using it well. You just built a real estate business, right? You're now successful in real estate. Fantastic. I'll ask you this. Are some of your coworkers, some of the people that you bought or sold houses, are your clients, are your tenants, are they coming to your funeral, right? Do they know who you are? Are you one of their champions? Man, this guy helped me buy a house. I thought I'd be a perpetual, tenant. I didn't think I'd ever be able to own a house, but he was able to help me do that. Changing the environment, the landscape. Do you end up owning a block of houses, right? Creating a safe haven for people, or not? Are you just one of those transitional friends? Focusing on this funeral, right? This eulogy point. Let's add in some like real estate, some life to this. Are your tenants showing up, right? Are some of your past clients showing up? Did people want to work with you again? Or were you just transactional, right? Boom, in, out, next. Or were they like, oh my gosh, this guy actually spent time with me. He saw me for me. Are these clients, are they also becoming friends? Like, do they want to be a part of your life? Were you able to help influence them? Where they wanted to give honor and praise to you, right? Tip the hat. Are you using your real estate for good, right? To get in front of these people and change lives, or just to make money? So we've been creating this map, right? Mindset is the size of the map here. Step two was our snapshot, right? The you are here. We just talked about step 3, which is our destination, where we're going. Step 4 is the vehicle, right? This is the thing that's going to get us from one to the other. And this thing, this vehicle, is you, goofball. It's you. And you find out that you're built up of all these relationships, right? There's 3 main relationships. Relationship with yourself, right? So this is the physical self that you have. You have relationship with others, so all these people that are around you. And then you have relationship with things, right? All the stuff, right? The items, the environment, etc. So those are your 3 main relationships. We're going to break this open a little bit more later, but I'll give you a little overview here, right? So let's look at, remember we talked about it, the most important real estate is between your ears, right? This intelligence, right? This brain, this mindset, right? Boom, right there. So we have 2. We have the emotional, right? So call it heart, call it emotions, but this is where your personal drives your professional, right? This is where all that stuff sits, right? Our feelings create our thoughts, right? Our thoughts create our words create our actions create our life. Remember that process here? So this relationship with self is intelligence, it's emotions, it's also our physical body, right? So health and wellness, call it fitness, call it health, right? It is the physical vehicle to get us from point A to point B. And a lot of times we don't spend enough time on it. So we also have the 4th one here is character. So this is kind of what you were brought. This is your blueprint. The 4th one is character. So I'll define that as your relationship with yourself through time, right? So the fun things we could do in this area is kind of personality test, but it's also like, hey, are you a good person? Are you an honest person, right? Do you have a good character, right? Do you have emotional substance? Yeah. Are you reliable, right? Do you keep your word to people? Is your yes, yes, and your no, no, right? Do you honor these things? This is all part of that character. Cool. So that's relationship with self. All right, let's go look at relationship with others. So again, there's 4 areas with relationship with others. First off is love, right? That's significant relationships. Another word you could say is intimacy. Yes, sex is in here, but it's also having that intimate relationship with people, right? Some people could use a best friend. Some people could use, right, some type of partner. But it's basically that special somebody that you share kind of your everything with, right? This is your love. This is your significant relationship. 2 is your friends. Call it your social world, right? So it could be a coworker, right? But it also could be your neighbor. It could be just your social life. The fact that you could go out and listen to live music at a local pub. Boom, right? It's knowing that man is a social creature and spending time with other people, right? It's a good thing. It's good to know that there's other people out there struggling with the same stuff we have and also celebrating the same stuff we do and having that community of people, that tribe that we could go and chat with and grow with and just have fun, be a goofball. We also have family. right? So we have a love relationship, we have friends, a social life. We also have our family. Our family, like our parents or cousins or grandparents, could be our kids, aunt, uncle, right? Niece, nephew, cousins, all this, right? This is all the blood world that we have. I mentioned this before, but I'm the youngest of 5. I have a big family. I have a great and loving family, right? So if you have one of these too, that's awesome. I really commend you on that. But there's also a lot of people that don't have a good family, or it's unhealthy, or it's not a good place, right? It's not a safe place. So on this family side, I'm just going to make a little kind of asterisk to this. Family is also what you kind of create. If you were given a good family, you're now responsible for building kind of a family, a safe place for some of those people who don't have one of those, right? Bring them into some of your family functions, right? Invite them over for Christmas, right? Make sure that you create an extended family of sorts. So if you're part of that crazy train of family, it's also your job, right? Because remember, you're a leader, right? You're going through this training, you're becoming a better person. It's also your responsibility to start bringing some of those lost sheep together, right? Start creating a family of friends, right? Those people that you're bringing in, and you could be the leader and the shepherd. You could become the person that starts kind of loving them, because everybody needs a family, right? Family is not always blood, and it's your responsibility to create a good family around you. And then the fourth one here is your relationship with God. I know that sounds weird, but the spiritual component really is something important. And I made sure that I did not put this in your relationship with self, right? I don't want that positive self-talk or you doing meditation to be what you're calling your spiritual. I want you to really think about a relationship with the CEO of the universe, right? The person who made all things. You may be on a different walk, you might be on a different step in this area, but I think you need to recognize that there's more to it than just you, right? It almost takes more faith to think that you're by yourself than it is to recognize that there's something that put everything together. I'm not here to hamper or wag a finger at you at whatever choices you make. Really, my job here is just to introduce you. This is a relationship. Your creator wants to know who you are. My job is to introduce you and help you make good decisions in this space. Okay? One of my pastors, everybody needs a coach. Charles Simpson, he's phrased it this way. You get the top button right of a collared shirt, all the other buttons come into place. And it's same with God, right? You get your relationship with God in line, a lot of your other things fall in line. You find your purpose, you're able to find kind of who you are, and a special love and kind of relationship between that. Yes, Nate? So I know that this one is a little sensitive to some of you, and that's okay, right? I just want to make sure that we do put a highlight here that this is something that's pretty important. You may not have time for it now, or at least you don't think you do, but I'll tell you, you need to spend the time here and at least make your introductions. If you're curious, if you're asking questions, just talk to them, right? It's simple as, hey, I'm Kevin. Start enjoying a sunset and going, hi, God, if you're real, introduce yourself, right? And guess what? Things happen. Start that relationship. I'm not telling you to join a religion. I'm telling you to have a relationship with God, right? Treat him like he's right there, like he's sitting next to you, right? Start that relationship. Awesome. All right. So now relationship with things, right? Big fancy word, things. So let's break that down into a couple other things. All right, let's break that down. So first off, relationship with the environment. I'm not saying go hug a damn tree, right? That's not what I'm saying here. But your environment is the area you're around, right? That means your relationship with your room, relationship with your bed, heck, relationship with your pillow, right? It's your relationship with your desk, your relationship with your clothes, right? Your relationship with your car, your house, right? These are the things that are around you, your environment, not just trees. But this is, do you have a clean room or a dirty room, right? Are there dishes stacked up in your sink or is it clean, right? Do you have a soft blanket? Do you like your pillow? Or are you crunching it at night, right? This is your relationship with your environment. Okay, next is your relationship with money. This is one that a lot of people think of success is related to money. It's just one part, right? Money is the thing that a lot of people put up on pedestals. Oh my gosh, if you have money, you must be successful. Well, they're successful in one part, right? 1 out of 12. There's more to it. I want you to think of money just also as a tool. Real estate is a fantastic tool that creates a lot of equity, right? It creates a lot of cash flow, right? It creates all these wonderful things. But if you don't recognize that it's just a tool, right? Money's money. That's it. Don't pervert that relationship thinking it's more than it is, right? So remember, this is the balance wheel. If you spend all of your time and energy chasing this one segment, money, right? You might lose all these other relationships, right? What happens if you get all the money you desire, but then you find out you're, obese, right? You never settled down with a loved one. Or worse, maybe you did, but that person has gone astray, right? You haven't had the emotional time or strength or love for this person. What if you have kids and they don't even like you, right? Because all you do is chase money. What if you don't have any friends because all you wanted was money? Or the friends you have are just there for your money, right? Maybe that's all you think you could do with it is buy your friends. What if you get to a spot where you have your millions, your billions, whatever it is, you're a fat slob by yourself? Well, is that what you wanted? Your only friend is, some AI friend, right? Just recognize money's money and don't put that above everything else. All right. Third one in this area is your relationship with your job. Call it your profession, call it your career, but it's with the activity that you're doing, right? Do you like it? Or is there a future growth? Are you chasing titles, right? Are you in the corporate world going up the ladder, right? Are you an entrepreneur, kind of shiny objects, right? Doing all the things, right? Relationship with your job. Are you spending 8 hours, 4 hours, 16 hours, right? What is your relationship with this? And I'm going to just say this real quick. Because you spend 1 hour at work doesn't mean you need to spend 1 hour with your kids, right? It's not necessarily a one-to-one, but it's just making sure that you understand work is work. You could do it there. I just want you to get that work is just one component. When you're at your eulogy, remember that exercise we just did? Is your work going to show up, right? Is your boss going to show up and, we're going to shut everything down? Or are they just going to hire a new person and keep going? Are you just another cog in their wheel, right? Just recognize what it is. Work is work, right? Is your profession doing something meaningful for other people? Is it giving you a platform to be a good steward of society, of your gifts, of your talents? All right. And then the last one here is relationship with the future. I'll use another word there, your legacy, right? What you're leaving behind. The thing that people talk about at your eulogy, right? It's after you've passed, right? Are you still living on? So Coach Chuck, right? The shoulders that I stood on, or that I still stand on, his recipe for success. Chuck is dead. He's gone. But because of his wisdom, right? His legacy of leadership, his fingerprints are in everything I do, right? You're now learning about him, right? In the future, there might be other people that learn about Chuck that he's never met, right? He's had a profound influence in now your life because he's affected mine. Now he's affecting yours. His legacy is growing. Do you want to leave a legacy? Is there something more you want out of your life? Do you want a park bench named after you? Right? So is your legacy going to be more than just your tombstone? Or a little urn on somebody's mantle there? Are you going to have a park bench with your name on it? Are you going to have a city named after you? Right? What is your legacy? How big do you want this to be? That's up to you, right? But if you don't have a mindset of leaving something behind, I'm going to challenge you to spend some time thinking about that future, right? Are people going to show up? Are people going to remember you? And what are they going to remember about you, right? He was just a money miser. He just bought houses, just like Monopoly pieces, right? Is it going to be that? Or what good did that person do for him, right? Why did he do these things? What was your intention behind it? How were you able to create better opportunities, a better environment for other people because of your real estate, right? Having that legacy to leave behind is a big deal. All right, so step 5, quick recap, mindset, right? Size of the map. Step 2, where are you, right? That's your snapshot. Step 3 is your destination. Where are you going? Step 4 was the vehicle, right? The car to get you there. Step 5 here is the tires. It's the traction, right? It is where the rubber meets the road in a sense. Fantastic. But this is where you start building your healthy habits, right? You recognize that you're going to be in real estate. You recognize you have a balanced, you want to live a balanced life, having all these different relationships in check. But you also need to make sure you're making those good decisions, right? So if something is weak in your life, like after you did that snapshot, you have the little litmus test. Hey, I'm not doing very well in this area. Great. Let's start putting some metrics that we could start seeing how we're doing, right? So if we're looking at our body, right? Is it how many steps are we getting in? How many push-ups are we doing? Are we going to the gym? Are we working out? Are we on a diet, right? What kind of lifestyle are we creating? Are we reading books, right? These could become little checkbox activities to make sure we're doing them. Are we taking a self-care day, right? These can become those little KPIs, key performance indicators, that help us see, are we building healthy habits? In these KPIs, right, the metrics that we're keeping, just as you're building these things out, make sure that it's going down the destination that you're going, right? If you're trying to live healthier, great, start watching these things that you're doing, right? To make sure that you don't go too far out of bounds. But realize it goes also towards relationships with your friends and your family. Are you spending too much time out being social and not enough time home doing some of the work? Right? Are you cleaning up your houses? Are you cleaning out your rooms, right? These are different metrics that if you've let some of that stuff go, great, take control again. And you could do it through some of these healthy habits. Once you have a healthy habit established, it could be a wake-up time, right? It could be reading before the kids go to school. It could be just that you eat breakfast. You don't have to kill yourself. It's not an all or none, right? Because those are really hard things to do. Give yourself some grace. If you want to wake up at 6 o'clock every morning, 7 days a week, gosh, that's really tough. Why don't you give yourself a little grace and say, you know what, 5 out of 7 days, I want to wake up at this time, but I'll let myself sleep in twice. It could be a Tuesday, it could be a Sunday, it could be a set. You choose, right? And then you can choose to have that cheat day, whether it's for food, whether it's for waking up, whatever it is. Give yourself the ability to make that decision, that it's not an all or none type situation. Good. All right, step 6. And this might be my favorite, right? So again, let's really look at this because this is the roadmap one. So step 6 is roadmap. Step 1 is mindset. Let me use different words. Mindset is like the size of your map, right? Whether you think or you can or you can't, you're right. Mindset is a big deal. Knowing where you are, right? Step 2, snapshot is a big deal. Knowing where you're going, right? Having your vision or your destination is a big deal. Recognizing your vehicle, right? Step 4, that's all your relationships. Step 5 is the tires, right? It's your KPIs. It's your healthy habits to get that vehicle one to the other. Well, the roadmap is recognizing all these things fit together. And it's also putting the little checkpoints, right? If you're trying to go to A to B, it's great. But what if that's a big area, right? You're trying to cover a lot of ground to become financially free. or to buy your first house or whatever it is. Start putting up these little checkpoints to make sure, hey, give yourself some victories along the way. Am I creating the right steps? Is it suddenly all these things are done, or is it a recognition that, hey, if I get this done, then I'm in the right part. If I get this done, it means I'm going the right direction. If I live in St. Louis, I'm trying to go to Chicago, right, which is just up 55 here. But if I end up over in Oklahoma and then over to New York City, then I'm not going where I want it to go, right? It helps you keep in line to where your final destination, where you're trying to get to is. It helps you build those checkpoints, right? Those areas that, okay, I made it this far. Fantastic. Now what's my next one? You have a chance to catch your breath, right? Recover, but also it lets you know that you're doing the right stuff. You're on your way. And it gives you a chance to kind of, especially on some of these bigger ones, like if your destination is become a millionaire, well, great. What steps are you going to start creating? Real estate is a way that you can do it multiple ways, right? You start building equity, right? There's value in the house, especially over the years goes up. You get cash flow, right? If it's a rental, you have money coming in. It's paying down your debt that you have on it. It starts creating more net worth. So it's good that you understand how these tools work. In my coaching, we have two different roadmaps. One for your life, right? So we know which direction that you want your life to go. We also have a roadmap for getting into real estate, right? Which direction are you going? You could do wholesales and agent work, which are quick transitional things. You could start buying houses. There's lease options. There's a lot of different things. And if you don't focus on what direction you want to go into it, you could start going just all the shiny objects, right? Shiny object syndrome is what we call it. But you run over to this one, you try this. You run over to this one and try this, which sounds exciting, but it doesn't necessarily help you have longer success, right? The riches are in the niches. In my coaching, this is probably my favorite subject, right? Because I get to have like an intimate time with each of the students, and we really get to we absorb all this life that they have, right? And it's like kind of the big culmination, right? The climax. And then we're able to take all those pieces that we worked on and start unfolding it and kind of creating what it is your vision for life and success is. A lot of people talk about success or living a good life, but they don't always have the right metrics on it, right? They don't always have the right concept of how to actually become successful to them. And this is their own words kind of creating this path. And I love it. I love seeing it bubble down into just a couple words, right? Hey, my 1.0 self, my 2.0 self, my 3.0 self is this. Fantastic. And then you're like, hey, are you living your 1.0 self right now? Are you reverting back to this old person? Are you becoming what is it that you're developing into, right? Then you could start doing step 7, which is accountability. So I'll recap again real quick. Step 1 is mindset, the size of the map. 2, where you start from. 3, where you're going. 4 is how are you getting there. 5 is the tires, the traction, the healthy habits that you're creating. 6 is the roadmap, right? Knowing the directions that you're going, right? The little check boxes to make sure you're on the right direction. But step 7 is that accountability. Accountability is the person, it's the co-pilot, the person sitting next to you holding your roadmap that you just created going, hey, bro, you're messing up. Like, get back on subject. Or it's the person saying, hey, man, you need to hit the gas. You're not going anywhere, right? Accountability is that person, right? I've seen some couples think that it's a good idea that the wife tells the husband or the husband tells the wife. That works for some people. Other people, that comes out as nagging. So a lot of times it's really nice if there's that third party, right? Somebody who isn't in that family per se, but is able to say, hey, man, you said you're going to do this. Have you done it? Are you show me your KPIs. Well, you said you wanted to start walking. You said you're going to walk 3 times a week. Did you? Oh, you didn't? Well, no wonder you're not hitting your objectives. You're not doing the tasks that you set in front of you. Have you noticed, like going to the gym, if you say you're going to do it and you're by yourself, that it's a lot harder to do it? Have you noticed that if you have somebody saying, hey, I'll meet you there at 6, somehow you'll wake up and you'll make it because you don't want to let that person down. You don't want to let that friend down. Having that accountability partner, whether it's on a diet, whether it's exercising, whether it's reading books, right? Book clubs, whether it's becoming successful. Build that tribe around you that is helping you stay focused and do the things that you said you're going to do, right? The people that help you maintain that your yes is yes and your no is no. And they can kind of, where your iron sharpens iron. They're also in that journey with you. Go back to the recipe for success that Chuck had. Remember, he had vision, he had find a coach, but then he said find that mastermind. This is that mastermind, right? This is that accountability group, the people to keep you going. He also said upgrade your systems and take massive action. So as we're wrapping this up, these 7 steps of living a life fulfilled, do you see how it goes so much with the recipe for success, right? It helps develop that path, opens up the idea of the vision, and also kind of that massive action. It makes sure that your roadmap, your direction is in the right direction based on whatever success is for you, whether it's in life, whether it's in real estate. Understand how these relationships work. And it also highlights the most important real estate is between your ears, that the personal drives the professional, and that it's all about relationships. And these relationships tie back to that vehicle, right? Relationship with yourself, relationship with others, relationship with things. It's all about relationships. Hey guys, I want to thank you for sticking with us on these 7 steps. Appreciate it. If you want to get ready for episode 3, which is talking about mindset and snapshot, just remember KevinDuragi.com/tools. You'll find some of the information that we're talking about. Awesome, guys. See you next show.